One of the things we talk about on Near and Far all the time is social media marketing and why it is an incredibly important part of what insurance agents need to be doing in the 21st century to build and continue to connect with their book of business. So really excited to be joined today by Cody Askins, who is A, an international gangster, B, a tremendous YouTube and social media person, and third, the founder of 8% Nation. Cody, good morning. How you doing today?
Boom, good morning. And you did say it. I love it, man. I love Bill. I love Neishloss Fleming and Jill and their whole team, and I'm excited to be in Pittsburgh, man. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're going to be working today on a couple collaborative items on a couple different things, but wanted to take the opportunity, since you and Dylan were here with us, to talk through social media marketing.
Yeah.
So that's a subject that we've been talking a lot to our agents about, in terms of being able to have a presence to continue to connect and drip on their existing book of business and also use it for prospecting. And since that's something that you're incredibly successful at, I thought we could take the time to talk to our agents about some of those things.
I would love to. I think it's huge. I think our industry doesn't give it our industry's starting to pay attention to it more, but man, it can be such a game changer, whether it's your local insurance agency or whether it's becoming a Neishloss Fleming one day, right? Like there's so many pieces to this that we can unpack. I'm still working on the international gangster piece, but maybe I'll pick up some stuff, some knowledge on that today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you talk about how the industry is starting to come around with social media. One of the things that's interesting to me is I think there are certain market segments that are much more in tune with social media marketing than others. And I find with the senior market, specifically Medicare agents, there's less of that. And
True.
I'm interested in your perspective, because when I think about it, I think a lot of our Medicare agents are a little bit older. They think, and I think this is a misconception, they think their clients aren't on social media, so they don't want to take the time to do it. What's your perspective on the difference between what life agents are doing on social media and maybe what Medicare agents are doing on social media?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I see that a lot, and you're right, because the life agents, typically younger, a lot of individuals come into the industry selling life insurance as a focus. They eventually realize, hey, I would love to have some residual income and hang out with Neishloss Fleming and get paid every year instead of starting over every year. You mentioned last night, a lot of life agents, they're constantly unemployed.
Yeah.
It's and that's the way I felt as a life insurance agent. Now, you can make a ton of money. It's a great thing to sell. People need it. But then the Medicare side, it seems to be a more seasoned route. You tend to not transition. And I don't know why this is the case. We may talk about this on the other podcast later today, but it seems like a lot of agents take some time to transition to Medicare. I'm not sure why, even though I think they could transition much sooner than they think. It's like it seems more complicated to them, but it's really not. It's fairly simple, especially with your guys' help. The average age of the industry is 59. Somebody said 57 last week. Either way, it's older.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, too, I think a lot of the Medicare practices have always been direct mail, local events, seminars. A lot of the practices that technically still work and they're still good.
Yeah, they absolutely still work.
Yeah, and you should be doing them, but I do believe you should be, evolving. I mean, think about this. We're hanging out in Neishloss Fleming, one of the top Medicare IMOs, FMOs in the industry. Huge organization, ton of agents, and we're sitting in a studio talking about Medicare, right? And talking to agents. Well, I bet if we fast forward, a decade or two ago, we probably didn't have a studio. We probably didn't have lights and computers and Nick and TVs and all this stuff, right? And so if y'all are paying attention to it, and you're building the YouTube channel with almost 5,000 subscribers on it, right? And it's becoming a thing. If y'all and these bigger Integrity, as an example, right, are starting to use this more, why wouldn't an agent that's not to this level yet not pay attention to it?
Yeah, I think you're right about that, and it's interesting as a thought about how most agents that are writing Medicare didn't just start writing Medicare. That's usually not their entry point.
No.
And I think part of the reason is that Medicare is kind of a slow burn to start. That the money isn't as high day one, but the residual income that you can build is why people want to get into Medicare and stay there.
Totally.
I am still getting commission checks off of individuals I wrote on Medicare Supplement in 2004, 5, and 6.
How cool is that?
It's not a lot, but it's probably a case of beer every other month that is still rolling in the door.
What other product can you even say that? Like, that's pretty incredible. You're talking 17 years later, 18 years later, like that's nuts.
Yeah, no, it is wild. Well, one of the things that's interesting to me about social media marketing is that it's really twofold. Especially in the Medicare market, I think with Life it's really acquisition oriented. Mm-hmm. That you are just trying to find prospects and write them because there's not a whole lot of engagement that has to happen after that. With the Medicare business, what we're trying to explain to agents is that you are trying to continually engage your book of business, mm-hmm. so that when they're getting calls from other agents, even though they shouldn't be getting cold calls from other agents.
Sure.
Or they're seeing Joe Namath on television, or here's the Blue Cross Blue Shield ad. They don't choose to pick up the phone. They remember, oh, Bob Smith is my agent. When I have a Medicare question, I'm calling Bob Smith. But it's both that and it's prospecting.
Yeah.
Let's say that you were talking to a new Medicare agent,
okay.
And they were saying to you, Cody, I've done some life insurance business, I've done some ancillary product sales, I'm doing Medicare, I've not done anything on social media before. I watched Neishloss Fleming's YouTube channel, and they're talking to me about how I need to be engaged with social media. What should my first couple steps be? What would you tell them?
That's good. I would say there are things, this is an easy one too, there's things that are happening throughout your day, currently, that you could be sharing on your own social. If it's, like today, I'm going to be sharing, like as an example. Now this takes a habit to do, but I'm walking in to the headquarters of Neishloss Fleming. I'm taking out my phone. Y'all got Welcome and Cody and Dylan on the TV. I'm shooting that like, hey, we're here. These guys are amazing. You should follow what they're doing. Oh, hey, Bill. He's, and I'm sharing that on social. And it took me like 10 seconds, it was so simple. And so even if it's not stories, I do believe you should be sharing at least 10, 20% of everything you put on social needs to be about what you do, at least. Some people are like, never go over 20. Dude, I'm not the guy that's like, hey, you can't do too much. You're doing too much. It's like, I've seen the more I do, the more it works. So I'm just like, I'm the dude that I finally put a post about like health and wellness and like, working out the other day. But most of the stuff I put out is about what we're doing, like behind the scenes and the day in the life. So I really believe like step one is as you're going through your day as a Medicare agent, be thinking about what is something I could share. As an example, there's a lot of agents now that are getting picture with a client. And that's a way, not to say, hey, I should sell you Medicare too, but to say, hey, I love what I do, right? If you have someone that that could use my services and that needs help with this, dude, let me know. Or if you don't love what you do and you want to love what you do and you want to make this amount of money every single year, then contact me, right? So it can end up growing your practice in multiple different ways. And there's people that are watching on your social right now that you may not be telling a story to. And I promise you, I don't care if it's 1,000 people, 80 people, 8,000 people, they have parents and grandparents that are on Medicare, need Medicare, or currently on Medicare, or need Medicare themselves. Or they're unhappy with what they're doing. And you have people right now that you can be helping that you're just not sharing or telling that story to at all.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Another fellow integrity partner, North American Senior Benefits, who we're good friends with them. We were just with Cole.
Love them. Love Cole. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're just with them a couple weeks ago. They do a really neat thing. I think it's on their Instagram page where when their agents close a sale, they take a picture with that consumer. Mm-hmm. They've got a special frame, and I think the frame says another happy client or just help someone else. It's something along those lines. And you're seeing that all the time. And I think that's really neat. The one concern that Medicare agents have talked to me about is I'm concerned about content and being compliant. Because that's a different concern for the Medicare agent than it may be in other lines of business.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've said to them is, you don't have to be an educator. Like, you don't have to be putting out data dump on enrollment figures or product information on social.
They want that anyway.
I don't think that they do. And I've kind of said to people, I'm interested in your perspective on this, that you want an element of information that you're giving to people, but there's a reason why they call it social media. Like if they were looking for data dump or high-end information, they're going to Google, they're going to Medicare.gov, they're going to all sorts of different sites. But there's a reason why they call it social media. You can have an informative part of what you're doing, but that should not be the centerpiece.
No, and what's funny is anybody watching is going to hate my answer. We should clip this out and we should share it everywhere. I believe that when agents bring up the compliance piece, they are using compliance and other parties as an excuse to just not do anything. I really do. And should they follow compliance? Absolutely. Do we get to where it paralyzes and we end up not taking action because we're like freaking out about it? I don't know if I can say, well, you versus your, or like, can I say Medicare Advantage? Can I say this? It's like, dude, I'm not saying to go like ask for, forgiveness and permission or whatever, all that stuff, but it, like, do and learn, and if you should be posting something or not, or you should be saying something or not. We typically know the answer, right? Like, if it feels like this may get me in trouble, just don't post it. But I bet 99% of the things that you could be posting right now are not going to get you in trouble. And you're using that as like, the overlord, right, or whatever. Yeah. That's like concerning you, and you're like freaking out, and it's like paralyzing you from doing. In our industry, doing wins, right? 92% of insurance agents fail, and they fail because they didn't do. They didn't see anybody. They didn't talk to enough people. They didn't sell to people. They didn't make enough money. And so if you're one of those personalities that's like freaking out all the time, you're probably going to fail anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. That the people who are successful in this business aren't necessarily the best thinkers. They're the best doers. Mm-hmm. We have an insurance agent who I'm not going to name, who is one of our most successful agents, but is not an intellectual overlord. Like, super nice agent, really loves what they do, and they are the most tireless worker. Like, they will take leads that other agents have worked, and before that an insurance company worked, and they'll be like, I'll call them. And you know what? They get sales from them because they continue to do what others will not.
Yes.
And that paralysis by analysis point that you're making, I think, is a really good one, because we'll talk to an agent about social media, and when they talk to us about the compliance concern, we'll say, hey, here are some ready-made solutions for you. You're contracted with us for United Healthcare, Highmark, Aetna, etc. Each one of those three companies has pre-done, compliant, beautifully graphically designed social media posts that if you want something like that, it's go to, like with United. You go to the United Healthcare Toolkit, you put in exactly what you need, you put in your information, bang, here's your customized, beautifully done, compliant piece on your social media. Beyond that, if you don't want carrier-oriented pieces, we've got a vendor that for, I don't know, it's like $50, I think. An agent can contract, and on a weekly basis, that organization is dialed into the agent's social media account, and they're posting like every 2 to 3 days, compliant, non-carrier oriented informational content. So that if you want that,
sure.
What's $50 a month?
Yeah.
It's $600 a year. In the world of Medicare Advantage, that's one initial enrollment. Yeah. It's one.
That's crazy, because I was thinking you're going to say $50 a post.
No.
You're like $50 a month. I'm like, okay, that's insane.
Well, if you have people ask you about it, tell them to call us. We'll tell them who the vendor is. Yeah.
Right. That's so cool. And the fact that that's available is incredible. I do know that. Now, is that better than not doing anything? 1,000%. Is you doing it better than somebody else doing it that maybe doesn't have your face on it, or you're never on video or whatever? Yeah, it is. And so it's interesting. It happens with a guy, actually. I was speaking at an event, 800 agents in Galveston, and a guy came up to me. He's like, man, I watch your videos. I love your stuff. I want to start shooting videos and sharing content. I just don't know where to start. I'm like, dude, here's where you start. You're going to be in a video. Watch this. I said, you take out your phone, which has the best cameras in the world, really. Yeah. You go to video. You turn it on yourself, right? And you say, hey, I'm a life insurance agent. Here's what I do. I'm hanging out with Bill today. We're going to do this, 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 and this. And if you're watching this video, there's 3 things you should probably know. and I'm going to share them with you right now. And it's like, dude, go for a minute, go for 8 minutes, go for 42 minutes. I don't care. Yeah. And then start it, stop it, and upload it. But what holds people back from doing that is they're like, okay, what do I look like? The truth is, the worse you look, the better the video will do. I know that's foreign, that's insane, but like, you know, I get the most engagement when I go, my wife hates it, but I get the most engagement when I go to the gym, I'm recording a story, and my hair's just freaking everywhere. And it's like, should I put a hat on? Should I put a hat on? Should I hide it? It's like, no. Vulnerability wins, right? Transparency wins. Is that tough for me? Yes. Because I want to look good. I want everything to be right. Like, I'm very picky. But it's like, the worse you look, the better it's going to perform. Honestly, it's funny. Like, if I trip down the stairs today, I hope Dylan gets it on video. Like, please get it on video, because it's probably going to go viral, probably going to do better than me walking perfectly down the stairs, right? Which is funny to say.
Are we going to see Dylan getting some sort of drone that is, like, on you at all times, hoping to capture the fall down the step moment?
I would love that, right? No, here's an example. Yesterday, I'm on my way here. I don't know if you saw this. 2 moments where, I don't know where my head was at, but we thought it was hilarious. One, I walked into the Springfield airport to come here around noon yesterday. I forget my bag in my car. And I'm like, I'm an idiot, but I got to share this. And so I'm like, get on video. I'm like, hey, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but like, I've walked in the airport, totally forgot my bag, almost went to Pittsburgh with no clothes, no bathroom items, none of this stuff, right? I'm telling myself, but dude, you should tell on yourself, because people want that. And then literally later the day, yesterday, I get off the plane when we get here. I leave the plane, I run to the bathroom, because all I'm thinking about is how bad I gotta pee. And I go to the bathroom, and I go to the bathroom, and I see this guy's bag, and I'm like, are you flipping kidding me? I forgot my bag again, twice in one day. It left it on the airplane.
Oh, wow.
I can't go back to the airplane because I've already left the gate. So I go back, and I'm like, here's my boarding pass, here's what my bag looks like, it's still on the plane, I'm so sorry. And she goes and gets it, comes back. But then I get back on video, and I'm like,
did it again.
I did it again, twice in one day, right? But you wouldn't believe the engagement that we get on stuff that is just so dumb, you know? But if you think about it, people, you mentioned last night, right? I think it was with your daughter maybe, or somebody. I think your girlfriend's daughter, right? And you were sharing about how, like, okay, what keeps you from the swipe?
Yes. We were talking about TikTok.
Yes.
And I was asking my daughter.
Yes.
Because we were having a conversation about
exactly
folks that are using TikTok for marketing purposes, and kind of this debate over, okay, well, if you get 40,000 views on a TikTok post, but what is the engagement? Like, are people actually doing something? And I talked about asking my 15-year-old daughter, who is literally on TikTok all the damn time.
Yeah.
Do you have a daughter like this? Do you have a son like this? If you do, post in the comments, and we can, you know, we can talk about our children who are ceaselessly doing
yes
on TikTok and trying to get their attention. But I said to Cody and Dylan last night, as well as, you know, the rest of our group, you know, Jill was there, Nick was there, Jesse was there. I asked her, when you're doing that, what gets you to stop? Because if we can key into why the 15-year-old high school student stops flipping and watches, then maybe that tells us, okay, maybe there is some value in TikTok. How do we replicate that?
Yeah. And it's funny, too. The reason I'm talking about that, those things that I'm sharing right now is, you know what also people love? They love hearing stories about what's going on in your day that you don't want to tell, that nobody knows. You know, and so when I do this stuff, I'm like, okay, what's some recent stories I can share? Well, the TikTok thing, there's over 1 billion users on TikTok, which is mind-blowing. Like 1 in 7, whatever it is, on the planet have it, which is nuts. However, with like TikTok or anything else, it's all about how can we keep them from swiping their finger a half a second later, a second later, a second and a half later, like so short. And if you think about it, all you're trying to do on social is pattern interrupt. They're looking through their news feed at 6:30 in the morning when they shouldn't be, because that's the first thing we do when we get out of bed. We just grab our phone and start swiping and looking, whatever else, which I try not to do, right? Because it's a great way to start the day. It's like tornado, death, hurricane, COVID, all this stuff, right? It's like, oh, this guy robbed a bank and this guy killed somebody. It's like phenomenal. Like I need all this in my brain to start my day for sure. Like this is the best way to have a positive, amazing, motivational day. You know, agents can relate to this, like because you have control over how you feel throughout the day more than you think. And But it's interesting because like the whole thing is you're trying to get them to stop and look at you. So here's an example. I was questioning whether I should post this. I did it anyway. I posted a picture. I've been working out for like 4 years, but this year I got this new challenge. I'm doing 10,000 steps a day, 150 grams of protein a day. I've had no protein a day, and which is 10 of, and I'm failing. And then 100 push-ups a day. Well, I've already got 4,200 steps at 9:32, and I've done 100 push-ups for the day already. And so I was trying to share. I'm like, how do I share this without it seeming arrogant, without seeming like a jerk? And so I'm like, Lauren, just go outside. I want to take a picture of me. And I took my shirt off and just like was like screaming at the camera and had her like get this wild photo of me. Yeah. Which was, it's not like me, but I'm like, you know what? Every now and then I need to be unlike me, right? And so I post it. And I put the top and I write like this whole story. It's been like an hour typing, which I never do, but I sometimes when I do that, it works better when I do. And I put, the first line was, no, I'm not a health coach. Here's me being read about me being a hypocrite and having a bulging disc, right? That's how I started it. I didn't start it like, oh my gosh, look at me, like I got some abs, shape. You know what I mean? I'm not saying to like always be self-deprecating and just have no confidence, but that's the type of stuff that, or I'm not saying you always post people with your shirt off, but like, no, I'm not a health coach. I'm a hypocrite too. Like I'm complete. You know what I mean? Like people respond to that, and so try to interrupt. Try to share and be honest and vulnerable. When you don't want to post something, that's when you probably should. Not because it's uncompliant, don't do that. But it's like, I don't know that I want people to know this. That's exactly what you should post.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about being a pattern interrupter. I think a lot about some of the social media posts that we've done, specifically on LinkedIn, that have popped. And they've all been radically different from the Independence Blue Cross achieved a 5-star rating on their Medicare Advantage plans, or Aetna now has national network available for their HMO. Those are kind of a lot of the things that come out where we're doing some information sharing, or we're trying to take information, make it fun. When we do something that's totally off the wall, that pops, because to your point, it's a pattern interrupter. Yeah. And I think coming back to the Medicare agent and starting social media, I think that they feel like that those types of items are unprofessional.
Yep.
And they're afraid of giving that vulnerable look. But maybe what they need to do to connect better with their book of business or with potential new clients is to be vulnerable and human.
Yeah, exactly. And do you, what's funny is, so you put your mind, actually just put yourself in your own mind and think about this from your point of view. Say you follow someone and you're watching stuff. Do you want, honestly, and let me know in comments if I'm wrong, do you want to always be looking at them posting about professional stuff? And the answer is no. You don't. Now, should they share some professional stuff along the way? Totally. But you love it when they share something ridiculous. Here's an example. My pastor in Springfield, Missouri, does a phenomenal job of sharing stories from stage. If you ask me, hey, what's the one thing you remember of everything he's talked about for the last 18 months of sitting under this pastor? The one thing that I remember, the one thing, we shared this story about him and his sons, and they were at an Orlando Magic game, and they were sitting in nosebleed at the very top, and by the end of the game, he had pictures of how they transitioned, and his kids were in like Spider-Man outfits and all this stuff, and before you know it, they're like sitting a few rows from the court, right? It was like the coolest story. He was sharing it. He was like, and he was being honest. A pastor's like moving down seats, because there's a bunch of open seats, but you normally wouldn't do that, right? Yeah. That's the one thing I remember. It's not him with his staff and like his professional like standing perfect photo, and everybody's got like the jacket on and like the courageous logo and like the perfect spot and all that stuff. No. It was that moment where he's being vulnerable. He's tying in his family. He's tying in sports. He's moving from the top, and like this whole, just story of like, the underdog that ends up sitting like right by the court. Like, it was cool. That's the one thing I remember. And so I would ask you, like, if we were to survey all the people that are following you on social, what's the one thing they remember about you? If you said, what is the one post that I've ever done that you remember? What do you think they would say? And when you think about it, do more of that.
So I think to kind of summarize, if I feel like I'm hearing you, and the advice that you would give to Medicare agents who are looking to start being much more engaged and productive on social media, the first tip is to do it and do it frequently. The second is avoid being overly informational.
Yeah.
And the third is be human and be relatable.
Yes, 100%. And if you want to tie in information, like, no, I'm not a health coach, but then below, I'm typing like, hey, here's the 3 things I'm doing every day. I'm being informational. Here's the apps I'm using to track my progress. Like, I'm being informational, educational. It's just something people need. But I'm tying it into a story. I'm tying it into the week before 8% last year, me having a bulging disc and Dylan having to help me up off the ground in the airport because I can't move and I can't tie my shoes and I can't stand, I can't walk. This is the week before the conference. Like, I never shared that. Dude, I should have shared it. You know, I should have opened up with that at the conference. But I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to be like, oh, woe is me and I'm hurting. Like, dude, people will understand. They know I'm tough. They know I'm going to push through. But I'm naturally, like a lot of y'all, don't really want to share that part. Dude, I should have shared it. And I shared it, 7 months later. Should have shared it sooner.
So if you're thinking about engaging in social media, you just have to do it. So again, so glad to be joined today by international gangster, social media overlord, founder of 8% Nation.
Keeps getting better.
Cody Askins. Thanks again for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I love what you're doing. I love Neishloss Fleming. I appreciate y'all a ton. In this place, bunch of gangsters.
We'll be back with you soon on Near and Far. We'll see you next time.